Tone, I'm on Zoom, so don't talk, okay? Go do your work.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. You guys know what it is. It's the best day of the week. It's your girl, Miss Tiffany Barker, and my buddy, Norm. Hey, Norm. Y'all, guess what? I was a little early, but my earliness still made me late. I had to put my face on. I see my beautiful Dr. Aunt Bev is on here. I see my sweet Aunt Bev. I see Miss Gloria Turner. Y'all gonna get these faces up in the loyalty room. Hey, Aunt Bev. Yo, that's my favorite. My favorite. And we got Gloria Turner on here. We have a couple of educators on. But before we get started, y'all, you know how I like to do. I like to go ahead and get started with a little bit of fun. A couple of things that are light and a couple of things that are just light and okay. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, a couple of things that are light and free, so to speak, because at the end of the day, a lot of us have busy weeks, busy weekends, and I don't know about you, but I had a very good weekend. How was your weekend? I see you guys jumping on Facebook Live. Go ahead. I see Tracy. I see Miss Wanda. Hey, Mama Wanda. Tracy Beckford. I see you on here. Hey, Janelle, my Juju. Good to see you. And, of course, my Lakia. Big shout out to Lakia, who got Gloria Turner in the Zoom room being a loyalty tonight. And I'm so super excited. And y'all already know I said I got my Aunt Bev on. My Aunt Bev is on. And I'm so super excited. And so let me tell you guys what I did this weekend. Saturday, I met up with an advertiser, one of the guys who does my advertising, and I definitely want you guys to connect with him. Love Biome, and it helps deal with stomach health, and his slogan is "It all starts in the gut." So there's this. I'm actually starting tomorrow. I will let you guys know how the product works because I don't want to push something that I don't believe in. So I'm trying it so that you can try it and so that we can get y'all connected and so that you can go ahead and live a healthy life too. I didn't realize how much the stomach, how much drama the stomach really causes. And so I want to go into that. And then on Sunday, I, of course, had a chance to drive out to Delaware to see my godchildren because my godchildren's mother, it was her birthday. And so, of course, spending time with her and the kids. I try to get to the kids, y'all, I'm going to be honest, at least. And even though Delaware is not far because of my schedule, I try to get to them November for their birthday, for the girl's birthday. Trey is good, so he wouldn't mind if I just went ahead and cameraed him. But for the most part, I try to get out there at least 3 to 4 times throughout the year. 3 to 4 times throughout the year. These kids need a good representation of love. To be honest with you, kids need a good representation of love. And if they don't see love, they won't know how to be the love that they need to be. And why? Good to see you on here. Hey, Denise, I see you, Niecy. David Green, my DGJ, good to see you on here. So I'm going to introduce a couple of people really, really quick. All right, and we have Gloria Turner. Miss Gloria, if you can unmute Miss Gloria and let everybody know a little bit about yourself. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
I thank you for jumping on because you got a chance. Lakia tagged you last week and you were able to go ahead and join the Zoom. I mean, not join the Zoom, but join the Facebook Live. Tell us a little bit about your background in education and in the educational field.
Well, I've been in the educational field for about 26 years. And it started out, I was unemployed and walked into a door that I had no idea I was going to be walking into. I just was going to check on Key at school. And the principal said they needed some help. And that's how I got started in the school system.
Okay.
With the kids.
Kids. And what did you what was your position in the school?
I was a bus aide, a lunch aide. A bus aide and a lunch aide.
You saw a lot of interaction.
Yes.
You saw a lot of interaction. And so I'm glad. And that's what I posted last week. I wanted anyone who has been in the school district to join the Zoom to give their feedback based on the video that we shared last week. I see my girl Portia on. Ooh, Portia, I wish you were able to jump on. It would sure enough been good to see you. If you're able to jump on the Zoom, Portia, I would love for you to jump on. Portia has sons, and both of them are on the autism spectrum, but she, I believe, works in the school. She does. She works in the school district and has seen a lot as well. So thank you so much, Miss Gloria. I can't wait to hear your input and your feedback because I'm definitely going to show that video again. So thank you so much. And now we got Miss Gloria. This my ace right here. This is my number one right here. This one that I'm getting ready to introduce is my aunt.
Yes.
This is my aunt, the Dr. Beverly Barker. Oh, Flood. Hey, Aunt Bev.
Hi.
How are you? You looking like a little doll.
Oh, I'm good.
That's good, Aunt Bev. I'm so good. First of all, Aunt Bev, you know I'm like so tickle pink right now. I want to scream. I want to go off, but I'm trying to keep my composure. I'm just happy that you on here because I talk about you probably every other week. You hear the station owner, Norm? He said, yes, you do. I talk about my Aunt Bev. I sure do. Aunt Bev, let everybody know a little bit about your background and, your years in the educational sector as well.
Well, it's been a journey. Initially, I started out as really searching to help people. And I have a love for the underrepresented, the underserved populations, marginalized populations. And that really took me through a journey from human resources and services attached to that to education. And it really wasn't until the publication of A Nation's at Risk, where this country was really put on blast in terms of their public school system and how the school system was really failing our children, which is really our most precious commodity. And the gap, the academic scoring gap, really specifically special standardized testing scores between specialized education students and their non-disabled counterparts. The gap between those standardized achievement scores was was just criminal. It was really criminal. And I said, no, I need to leap into this arena and roll up my sleeves and see how I can participate in any small part of the solution. So it led me to academic, to achieve academic credentials, and on the teaching spectrum from K through 12, the college platform. And I was just able to really get firsthand witness in terms of the structure of the public school system, the state policies, educational laws, and it was just incredible. It was just incredible.
You have a love for people. I know that because
I love you. That's
and I love you with every fiber in my body. And I can't talk about it long because you're not going to have me be a snotty crying mess tonight. Okay? Because I promise you, the love, I wish, Miss Gloria, I wish you knew the love that I have for my aunt. My aunt is like another mother. I'm going to be very honest with you. Both of my parents, I've been blessed to have both of my parents very much active and always very present in my life. I grew up with a solid village on both sides of my family. And so it's truly a blessing. And my aunt is like another mother to me. My aunt is like another mother. And I'm going to be honest, the touchy-feely that I have and that I get, I touch and feel and always want to kiss and do all this other stuff. I get that from her. I get that from Aunt Bev, and I get it from my Nana, and so, but love is what love does. And you can't hide love. And even in these atmospheres, and working in a school district and dealing with kids, you have to love seeing people. Love what you do and love to see people and families get better, because you guys are a healing agent that to me is just like a hospital. It's like a hospital. Some kids look forward to going to school because they go through so much hell at home, and so seeing Miss Gloria and they can come up and hug you and say, "Hey, Miss Turner," or going to school and seeing Aunt Bev and they can say, "Hey, Miss Barker," and y'all just smile at them when their parents are dealing with several issues at the house and don't know how to smile at their own children. So it's the love. I thank God for what you guys have contributed in these past years. And I wanted to go ahead and introduce y'all briefly. I wanted to go ahead and introduce you guys briefly. We're going to have probably a couple more people jump on. And in the meantime, I always like to start off a little light, a little carefree, a little fun. I try to do things where we get to laugh a little bit, do roller coasters, that kind of deal. But tonight, the first thing I definitely want to do is show my advertiser. I want to make sure I support him. And so this is what it's called. It all starts in the gut. Love Biome. And this here is what I actually have. There's a detox, a balance component, and this powder, which is of fruits and vegetables. And I'm going to start tomorrow, and I'm going to give myself some claps because guess what? I need to lose some weight. I have been eating, and I've been eating like every day is the last day. I eat like I'm going to meet Jesus tomorrow, if not tonight. I absolutely love food. Absolutely love food. And so I said to myself, when he had Mr. Collin is his name. When Mr. Collin was talking about how he was going to, help me lose the weight and well, not even lose the weight, help me be healthy. I said, okay, you know what? I need this because I do a lot. I want to live long. And I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of us, we have an obligation. Our body is the temple of the living God. We have an obligation to do right by what God blessed us with and created us with. And that's this temple. And I don't want to take it for granted, because the moment you start taking stuff for granted, God will let you know, okay, I have a way of slowing you down, and so I definitely want to go ahead and try to be healthy, want to live long, do cartwheels, run around with all of my godchildren, that kind of deal. So I want to go ahead and do that. So if I don't get a chance to get to it tonight, it's quite all right. I'll show you guys the videos and so forth next week. There's my sweet Destiny. Hi, Des.
Hi.
Y'all, Destiny is pregnant and getting ready to have baby number 2. She and her husband are on their second baby. And she's so tiny. Look at that tiny little face. And just
congratulations.
Thank you.
Just as adorable as pie.
Yes.
Y'all should have seen her little belly at her baby shower. She's all just belly, got the cutest little frame. And it's looked like she just got a basketball right in front of her. And guess what? She's having a girl.
Yes.
Even though I think the baby's name is beautiful, but should be Tiffany Renee. But I'll let you slide with what you got. Des, go ahead and let them know a little bit about your experience in the educational field and your background.
Okay, well, my experience in the educational field, I started off as a 5th grade teacher in Baltimore County Public Schools. I started off the school year with about 28 students, and midway through, I ended up with 31 students. So I was teaching 31 10-year-olds in a classroom that was definitely overcrowded, as many of our classrooms are. I then went on to teach at Job Corps, which is a Department of Labor organization, which is it's government funded, and it's for youth, what they call at-risk youth, but we like to refer to them as at-promise youth that are, at ages 16 to 24 years old, and they're working towards their high school diploma, GED. Some of them come in with their diplomas already, and they go straight to working towards their trade. So I worked with Job Corps for 6 or 7 years. I was teaching the high school program for students that came in without their diplomas. And I then worked as the academic manager in the department. Then I went to CTS, which is the transitional services. After they complete the program, do follow-ups, make sure they're, maintaining their employment, if they need any follow-ups or anything like that. And then, transitioned to a school counselor in Baltimore County Schools again, which is where I started off my academic or my education, teaching my educational background. And then currently I'm a mental health therapist. So I'm working with mostly an adult population. So that's pretty much my background in education and my career background.
That is, and see, this is what I love about the educational system. It's such a broad range, it's such a broad spectrum that there's really room for everybody to help as many people as they can. And so I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you guys have put your part in to what's the word I'm looking for? Better the life of somebody else. Okay. Hold on 1 second. So what I'm going to do really quick is show this video that I shared last week, and I want your feedback on it. It got so intense in the comment section with this 5-year-old boy who was playing recess with, school, you have recess. And like I said last week, when it rains, what happens? You guys have recess inside the gym. And this particular time, there was recess outside, and it's just heartbreaking. I'll just go ahead and just play the video, and then we'll just jump right into it.
Family and friends of 5-year-old Romeo Pierre-Louis gathered in front of Charter Oak International Academy in West Hartford to send a message and honor Romeo. The family saying he was kind and loved superheroes and memorizing Bible verses. Last April, Romeo experienced a medical emergency while playing at school during recess. Today, the group laid flowers at the spot where Romeo died on the playground.
I know he'll be very pleased right now if we could all together raise our voice and say the Lord's Prayer, because that was his favorite prayer.
And earlier today, a lawsuit was filed on behalf of his family. The group holding up signs saying, "Listen to our children," because the family says the adults there that day did not pay close attention and had a delayed response in helping the 5-year-old. The family telling me that all they just want is accountability and for teachers to listen to their kids. In studio, Jake Garcia, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station. And the family and friends of 5-year-old Romeo Pierre-Louis.
Yeah. And the silence that I just got from the three of you at the same time is exactly what I was feeling. All three of y'all are parents. And can you imagine sending your child to school and the teachers say they thought he was pretending and playing dead while your child is dead on the ground? I will first of all
express something.
Absolutely, Aunt Bev. I want to go to each of you to get your thoughts on this, and then no, go right ahead, because I want each and every last one of you to say what you feel, and then we're going to dissect this thing. I want to go into the school system and the relationship with teachers and students and so forth. So go right ahead.
What I think about is just the landscape of the educational field. And in that, there's so many components. And one key thing that jumped out with me is that the media reporter indicated teachers should listen to their students. So I just want to exploit that for a moment. And we need to consider the philosophical changes that teacher preparation has undergone. And these changes are really a developmental arc for understanding the inadequacies among teacher preparation programs.
Ooh.
So if I could just start out with that and just plant this seed of thought, and that is the definition of education has changed based on philosophical changes. Because definition of education has changed, the purpose of training teachers to teach children has changed.
Talk.
Okay, and we have to think about the 8 arms of the octopus. Okay, and one of them, of course, is federal funding, government intervention, teacher reforms, the credentials of teachers. There are so many components that jump out in me, and it still boils down to how teachers are trained. The teacher did not consider this child a priority. Perhaps because of training. And that's where my arm has a stronghold with, because of my background in teacher preparation. My dissertation was on teacher preparation and how it correlates with standardized achievement scores and behavior. So many of these things come to mind. And the fact, one thing I think about is initially how teachers were prepared to go into a classroom and improve whatever capabilities the students have. They were parents in the classroom. They were social workers in the classroom. And they were teachers. And because of so many reforms, legislation reforms, state reforms, city reforms, you have an administration that operates on so many directives, you know, and I think all of these facets become, or not become, but contribute to the inadequacies of teachers in a classroom. It would be unheard of when I came up.
And being outside,
I'm a child from the 50s. That would be unheard of. A teacher would automatically go to a child. And
being outside of the classroom, children are not left by themselves. The teachers were very much present.
Yes. Teacher presence means teacher accountability. Not skill, but accountability.
What's the difference?
Big difference. Skill has to do with training, licensing, credentials. And I heard one of our guests indicate that her classroom went from 28 to 31. That's against the law.
Is it?
Yes, it is. That's against the law. You have to request a certain waiver to exceed the number of children that are supposed to be in a classroom. Like, for instance, I taught special ed for 15 years, K through 12. The maximum is 12 kids. There were times I had 18. 18. If something would have happened to one of those children, that's the whole Board of Ed, because it's illegal to have that many children in the classroom. And that's for a reason. So this is why I'm saying state legislation, policies. There's a educational policy expert, and I really love her. Besides Diane Ravitch, this is Linda Hammond Darling. And she talks about the changes of how teachers are trained and prepared because of federal funding. Okay. Every child in that district where that child died,
outside.
If that was me, I would own the entire district.
What? Who you telling?
Own the district, okay? Because not only is the teacher accountable, her license, and she better be licensed, because that's another crime, to be in the classroom and not have the appropriate credentials. So let's just, for argumentation's sake, let's say she is credentialed. Where in her training does it say to ignore a child? I mean, to some point, your prudent judgment has to usher in what you know, what you skillfully know. See, your skills are your training, moms. Your skills are your training. Okay? So what's the difference between a training in that state and the training in New York. See, that's a problem. Or in Jersey. Every state trains their teachers differently. There's no standardized training across the board.
That's not good.
No, this is how you have children from the South. They come to the North, they're a year behind. Usually they're put back a year.
Right.
Curriculums are different. Everything is different. This child, I don't know if the child collapsed. I don't know if this child see, there are a lot of variables that there's no evidence for. Was this a problematic kid? Is this special education or general education? Was there sufficient amount of coverage?
Bev, they said, I'm reading here in the New York Post, his name was Romeo. Romeo was lying on the ground for nearly 10 minutes without receiving medical attention, despite several teachers being within eyesight, says the lawsuit. And it said that several of his classmates told the teachers about his collapse, but the educators assumed he was playing a game the children called Play Dead.
But that's an indication that this child had some behavioral issues.
Is that really?
Yeah, that tells me that. It might not be true.
Right.
But it tells me, okay, it raises my brow that a teacher would assume he's playing dead.
But they said that there's a game that the kids would typically play.
But were they playing that? Were they playing that specific game at that time?
That's a good question. It says police report affirmed the children were known to play this game
during
recess.
You see how that's worded? They were known. So that's a common game they play in that school. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
But what was going on when that child lay down? Did the child lay down or did he collapse?
That's the part. Because I think that there's some kind of medical issue that they're now trying to present. So,
that's interesting.
Very interesting.
Because if there's some medical predisposition, then why didn't that teacher go to that child's aid?
Exactly right. And why was that child even left out of the reach of a teacher if this child had medical complications?
But according to the story, you said that there were teachers in the vicinity.
Right.
So there was coverage.
There was coverage.
Can I step in real
quick?
Des,
go right ahead. What are your intake?
Just
Des?
Even adding to the fact of okay, and I agree 100% with what you were stating as far as, just the training, just different laws and, things of that nature and, teacher accountability. I think what's also critical or just important, just as human beings and human decency, like you said, none of this requires certain skills that we have to be trained to. Like certain things are just in either you have it or you don't, just as a human being who sees certain things, right? And so if you're seeing that, separate from the seeing, if it was stated that children specifically came up and then made you aware, regardless of what you think, you don't have to have a college degree, a teaching certification, training. If I'm outside and I have a GED and I'm seeing a kid on the ground, and I'm not even waiting for other kids to tell me, I say, get up. We don't play like that. Get up, and if I realize that they're not playing, then of course, you go into that, you respond accordingly. But for them to, whether or not it was something that they did, on a regular basis, even if they did it on a regular basis, I highly doubt that kids previously had come up to teachers to include them in the game and say, hey, so-and-so is playing dead. Hey, teacher, look at them. They more than likely probably just kept it between the kids. So if that's an isolated incident, you have several kids coming up to you as the adult whether you believe it or not is not your role or position. Your role is to, you're an ally, an advocate, and all that for that child in that moment. He could be the worst student, it doesn't matter.
But you still
That's
check the child.
Right. And so you have people telling you this kid is on the ground or he collapsed or whatever wording that they use to relay them. Because what is he? He was 5, right? So
5 years old.
They're younger. So, and that's also another thing. Did you disregard because of their age and you just thought they didn't know what they were talking about?
But see, this ushers in. Oh, I'm sorry, darling. I'm sorry. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of state legislation. You can take something as simple as FAPE, fair, appropriate education. Okay, so even if there is something in us, because we, like you said, we're all human, and we have our own theories and beliefs about things, but every child is to be treated fairly and appropriately. And that's the state law. That is the state law. So with an instance like this, it is so straightforward in terms of educational law. It's suppose the child had a disability. Sometimes you even have sub-teachers that come in and they haven't read an IEP. They haven't read the background of the students, but they're covering. Okay. So now a sub, if this happened with a sub, let's say she is a sub, who knows? All of the evidence hasn't been leaked out yet. That sub is accountable to know every child that they are responsible for. Every child. In teacher preparation training, that's what the reform is all about. They're supposed to create scenarios or vignettes like this so that teachers, especially new teachers, she might be a new teacher. She might be a new teacher that may have fallen under the influence of somebody in her ear saying, well, that child is a prankster.
But see here too, Aunt Bev, and then I want to go to Miss Gloria. It says here that the classmates told teachers with an S. So even if it was one dealing with one substitute teacher, what about the others that were present and addressed as well?
And they all saw it.
And they all did absolutely nothing. Miss Gloria, have you ever been in a situation being around all different types of kids and kids play? You see a lot. Playtime, recess. Kids are super social and interactive, where you probably felt like there's something I need to step in and advise and get help because of a certain situation? Or have you seen situations where kids have been ignored?
Every day, I'm in the playground with the children from 11 o'clock until about 1 o'clock every day. So different groups come out to me. I have kindergartners, first graders, second graders. So I have a different number of ages of kids. And the kids, they do a lot of things amongst each other, but you have to have a keen eye. And I've been doing it a long time, so I can be on one side of the playground and spot something, and immediately I'm going to them and ask them what's going on over here. But that situation with that kid, that should have never happened. Mind you, we have more than we have a security guard. First of all, we have security outside. We have security. Then you have 2 aides. Then you have most of the time the children have their own aides for the kids. a para or someone
Mhm.
is assigned to certain kids that have certain behavior problems or whatever.
So wait,
They're
when
on
you
the
said
playground
assigned to a kid, does that mean
Yeah.
that particular para has to stay with that
They
child the
stay with them
whole
all
time?
day long, all day.
Oh.
In the classroom, wherever they go, they follow the kid. They follow the kid. So a lot of things happen on the playground. We when the kids on the playground, if they laying down, immediately I'm hollering across the playground, get up.
Absolutely.
You can't lay on the
Absolutely.
ground in my playground. You're not going to do it. No laying down. And another thing is the playground is made of concrete. That's another thing I had an issue with the parents. Parents have a lot of rights, but they don't use their rights. They should get together and tell them you have to make this playground where it is safe for the children. They can get those paddings put up. The kids fall down. They tear their knees up. They fall down, they bust their mouth open. It's a lot that happen when you're on the playground. And mind you, the teachers that I work with, they have 28, 30 kids. Some have 32 to one teacher with no aid. So you can have a kid. We have kids in the classrooms that they tear the classroom up. And the teacher's trying to teach, but she can't do it because then she has to take care of what is going on in the classroom with this student tearing up the classroom. So it's a lot that goes on. It's very unfair to the teachers that they put so many, and it's all about it's a dollar bill. That's another thing. Our kids are nothing to them but a dollar bill. It's crazy. When my kids was coming up, we've never had that. Even when I was going to school, never. The parents was always involved in whatever the kids was doing. We could come to school and check on. Now you can't come to the school and check on your kid. Parents could come in and walk in and sit in the classroom. You can't do that anymore.
Why did they stop that? What's the reason behind not permitting that?
I do not know when all of this happened. Things change, like your aunt said. Things just change. It's a different time and era. I don't understand why. But the parents can't come on the playground now. They can't. They want to come up to the fence and talk to their kids. They're not allowed. I guess because there's so much that's happening with, kids are being abducted. They're watching, the kids from the playground and doing different. I understand that. But parents should be able to come into class, observe the teacher, what's going on in the classroom. They're not doing it. It's a different day and era, and it's different parents. When we were coming up, our parents was more involved. The kid was coming up, I did everything. Everybody in that school knew me. I'm going to open my mouth. I'm going to be an advocate for the kids. Y'all not going to do what y'all want to do to them. And they didn't like me, but I didn't care because I was about the kids.
Listen, I'm going to tell y'all, Des, did you
down
have
to
kids?
the food?
Did you just have kids that didn't like you? Bev told me some horrific stories last week. And I promise you.
Oh, I got a lot of them.
I don't understand.
I have a lot of those. Elated. That was beautiful. For one child to think enough of me to say what I did during the day for her when she walked in the building and how I made her feel. She felt comfortable. She felt secure. Kids, that's all they want. Yeah, that's all they want. But I love working with the kids. I love it.
You said that.
I'm so happy that you said that.
Yeah.
To feel secure, to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
and these thoughts are part of the original definition of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when I say there have been shifts, paradigm shifts, massively. Okay, and to answer your question, moms, in terms of why parents are not able to come, it's a whole plethora of issues. Security is one. Okay, security and accountability for those kids is big time. Big time. Because if something happens to a child, suppose a parent comes into the gym and another kid is bullying that parent's child, there's a problem.
That parent's going to go ahead, because I would be that one. to yank that kid off my child.
Not only the kid, the teacher for not doing anything
For not
about
doing
it.
anything.
Yes,
You're
Walk in the
right.
principal's
Wow.
office and beat the principals behind. I mean, you're talking massive issues and
Yes.
liability and
Yes.
liability.
Yes. But it was
No, a
nice.
parent can't walk in. My daddy used to come in at the back of the class. One time, I saw a kid sneak and turn and look back, and I looked back, and Daddy pointed his finger at me and told me when I came home, he told me, "Don't you ever turn around and look in the back of your class. You keep your eye on your teacher." And I never did it again. But parents cannot come in the school. Look at these individuals coming to schools and they're killing kids.
Yes, they are. It's terrible.
Moms, no, not
Bad.
these people can't just walk up in the school. But I can tell you one thing: Caucasian parents do it.
Yes, they do.
They sure do.
Okay, they do it. And that was my next question: was this an inner city school? Was this a failing school?
I
Was this a
wonder what
failing
kind of
school
school.
district?
That's a good
Because
one.
that has a lot to do with
Yes,
resources,
it does.
coverage, okay, and how children are handled.
And you know what?
You know,
And I said last
There's
week.
a wonderful theorist, behavioral theorist, but one of my mentors. You know, I learned about him in the genesis of my dissertation work, and it's Watson, John B. Watson, and he said that a teacher is not really a teacher. A teacher is a facilitator of
Yes.
information. And John Dewey is the one that Columbia University fashioned their teachers' college behind. His whole theory. He said, whatever genetic endowment a kid has, that a facilitator is supposed to ignite what's in that kid and make it happen. If that learning is just for him to be a clerk, let him be a clerk. If that
That's
learning
good
is
one.
for him to be a doctor, then you ignite that in him. If you can't do it, you haven't been trained appropriately. And this is where teacher preparation come in. You have a kid acting out, and a teacher can't demand order in her classroom. That's a problem.
But see,
That's a
but then
problem.
here's my thing. So what do? Destiny had 31 kids in her room, 28 to 31.
Right.
And
that was with no aid. That was just me. We didn't have. There was no.
Let me tell
it was
y'all
general
something.
education, and I
Destiny
taught
is
like
this
that
big.
every day.
group as well.
Destiny is this big. Baby and no baby. Destiny is this big. 28 to 31 kids. And then
That's
what
an
would
everyday thing.
what would she
Every
do?
day.
Des, have you ever
You
seen
just have to, you just have to document it.
But see, now my thing is this.
But you
I
have
wanna
a conversation with your principal.
But
You
can
call on
she?
your phone in your classroom, because I've done it many times.
Des, did you have
And
a
I
phone
told
in your
my principal,
classroom?
okay, I have 16 kids.
Did you have a
And
phone in your
I'm just letting
classroom,
you
Des?
know, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to proceed?
Wait,
Because she knew I could keep order.
What?
That wasn't the problem.
Oh,
the problem
listen.
is it's illegal.
But
And
now,
nobody's taking my license. Nobody taking it.
but do the classrooms even have phones? Des, did you have a phone in your classroom?
We did have a phone. We could call. Yeah, we had a phone.
Was it like at your desk?
Mm-hmm.
So if something was to pop off in your classroom, you couldn't break it up by yourself. Do you
See, that's debatable.
Well,
Now
and
you're
that's
talking
the
about
thing. They
tort
want you not to,
liability.
but when you go into, so we did have, so there was a fight between, because when I first started teaching, it was 5th grade, so they were 10-year-olds. But when I was at Job Corps, I started at Job Corps, I was 25, and my students were 16 to 24, and some of them have been in and out of jail. You know, some of them been, involved, like they're like, like street, right? So
right?
I would jump it, I would just impulsively get, even though they say, for your safety, don't get involved and don't try to, but I would jump in, whether it was the 10-year-olds or 24-year-old men, to try to, because again, especially when you have that path, you see them as like your they're yours. Like these are like, your babies. And even though these were, I guess I was more like big sis age because they, at Job Corps, I was only like a year or two older when I first started than some of my students. But knowing what they would lose if they made contact, because when I first started at Job Corps, if you fought, you didn't get kicked out. You had there were other consequences, but because there were so many different centers that had murders that happened at different Job Corps centers, the government changed it to a level 1. So if you make a threat at somebody or if you fight somebody, you're out of the program for life. You can never re-enroll after a year. Like where if you get kicked out for other reasons, you can wait a year and apply again. So knowing what would be lost and just seeing or foreseeing what their lives, the path their life will go if they didn't complete the program, you just automatically go into that mode of like, nope, not to, and because I had a really good rapport with so many of my students when I would do that, thank God I never got harmed, but they would be able to bring it down, and I would try to make eye contact and I would see them seeing red, and I would just be like, so-and-so, let's say if the name is Michael, I was like, Michael, hey, look at me. Remember your why. Remember your why. Hey, Mike. Like, and I would have to keep like really de-escalating the situation. And it would take so long for security to get to places. It'll take, that's also an issue as well. But one point I wanted to go back to real quick, which is, I think it was, I can't remember who said it, but I think both of you mentioned it as far as kids being, having a safe space or feeling safe. Those children who reported what they saw, how safe they no longer at this point. As one, the PTSD is, or let's talk about the mental health aspect of it now with the aftermath. So I've said that my classmate is struggling, suffering, dead, or whatever the case, and you brushed it off. Ooh. Now, how do I feel safe in your presence? And how do I feel like you'll handle my issue, even if I'm feeling like I have a cold and I want to go to the nurse? It's something, minor. Versus, so how as a 5-year-old am going to think that you're going to advocate for me or have my best interest when I just lost my classmate at 5 years old?
And
you know
watched
what I'm saying?
it.
So how safe do they feel now that they say, go tell an adult when there's an emergency? I did that. I told multiple adults and they said, he's probably playing. They didn't say, all right, he may be playing, but let's go check it out. They didn't do that. And then for them to say, okay, at least 10 minutes there. So did you really think that at 5 years old, with the attention span that they have at 5, that he was playing for 10 straight minutes on the ground? So it's like so many different levels of how do you logically, as a well-functioning adult,
talk? License. Supposed to be licensed.
Because again, it's not even about the coverage at this point. It's not about it was too many kids, because again, it was brought to you. So even if they didn't notice, the problem or the issue was brought to you by multiple people who, yes, they're 5, but they can talk. They're verbal, verbal enough to communicate. I don't know if it was like, for special education population or whatever the case, but regardless, they're high functioning enough to communicate that this kid is on the ground and he's not getting up. And so the response was, he's good. He's probably playing, instead of, all right, let's go check it out and let's see. So now me as a 5-year-old who already has to deal with the trauma from witnessing that and the trauma from seeing people try to revive him after people did nothing, and then see him be taken away in a gurney and in a bag. And then I'm supposed to come back to school tomorrow and be, so.
Absolutely. The ripple effect is incredible, psychologically, emotionally, and psychiatrically. Ooh. And at one point I want to make too is that even at 5 years old, children can be in your class, general ed, and have not been diagnosed yet. So we, teachers, I remember pleading with my principal, I don't want the little guys. That it's just too much. It's too much. They have issues expressing themselves. Sometimes they misconstrue what they witness. That happens a lot.
They misconstrue what they
and that's
witness.
What I was thinking with the teachers. Maybe, we don't know. Maybe it's a group of them that plays pranks on people and go around telling lies. I mean, you don't know the school culture there. And one of the things I was thinking about was besides how teachers are prepared, is when it's exactly like Ms. Thomas indicated. Why is it that the aftermath, there's an aftermath with everything, just like there's an aftermath with crack addicted babies when they enter the system. There's an aftermath when a child witnesses a trauma, whether they endure it themselves or not. It's an aftermath of that. And teachers are not prepared to deal with that either.
Why?
All of that is shuffled off to the school counselor.
Yes.
And it's too much.
So, Bev, am I wrong for saying that the school, I don't even know what level, I don't know what level this is coming from, or so maybe you guys can help me with this. Am I wrong for saying that the district or the superintendent, that they're doing a disservice to teachers or anyone that is in a classroom where they're not able to allow the teacher to be able to identify certain circumstances, to be able to address these needs, or to be able to interact or act on a circumstance because of, what is it? I don't want to say the lack of
well, hold
skill.
on, moms. First of all, for you to be able to identify a disability, a crisis, an at-risk situation, you have to be trained to identify that.
So it's very easy for a teacher to not be able to identify based on lack of training.
Of course, preparation. Now, when you're talking about the superintendent, you're talking about organizational structure. You're talking about how a school system operates. Okay, that is completely different than teacher preparation.
So who prepares the teachers?
The teacher preparation programs in universities and colleges. And then there's a licensing and credentialing organization that issues the licenses based on the requirements.
So the schools that you all have been, that you've served at or you've taught, right?
Right.
So do the schools not send teachers out for these teacher preparation seminars?
No, the schools get the teachers in. The schools say, I need a math teacher. I need a science teacher. Licensing and credentials, the licensing and credentials department sent me my K through 12 license. Okay. Now, they don't have K through 12 licenses anymore. 2004, they divided into 3 sections: K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 4, and then 9 to 12. So now your area, your population is more specified, because they found out that teachers that were receiving K through 12 licensing, and you have a teacher that taught kindergarten for 20 years, she can't teach an 8th grade class.
No.
Right.
But the license is K through 12.
Ooh.
So they stopped that, moms. Okay. So now K through 2, you have to pass the state boards, whatever state exam you have to take. And then if it's special ed, there are additional exams you have to take for licensing. Then you got to take a different exam for your certification. Okay. You certified to teach. Well, I can't speak for general ed. See, a special ed teacher can teach general ed, but a general ed teacher cannot go in a special ed classroom.
They're not qualified.
They're not trained. They're not licensed.
Right. And that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
That
But
makes sense.
they have what you call co-teaching, and they have, this is considered the integrated era of teaching. Okay. Integrated meaning you have at-risk kids in the same educational environment as a general ed kid that has no problem, that's not at risk. But so because the state law says that at-risk kid is entitled to the same educational program, if they show promise and a capability to maybe meet those requirements, they have to be given the opportunity. So they have it's called inclusion, where they're included in general education.
Yes.
I used to supervise a group of teachers that were the inclusion department at what high school is that? Where did I go? It was in the Bronx. Clinton. I was at Clinton. I was at Clinton for 5 years, and I supervised the kids that just came out of middle school. They were ninth graders. So all the ninth grade teachers, special ed, I supervised them so that they can integrate the general ed teachers classroom. So, and that has a whole host of problems, Mom. Now you have your superintendent that approves the contract. Okay. You have your union. But the bottom line is, like I told you about Watson and Dewey. Dewey said that kid is supposed to be able to make improvements, whether they're marginal or whether they're significant, every single year towards a specific goal. Now, the curriculums, the blueprints indicate that, but they're not functioning that way. So you have these teachers that ignore a kid that's sick on the floor. If these policies were functioning the way they should, that would not happen. That would not happen. Is that true, Gloria?
That's true. That's true.
I want to get what I just need to.
And you think you don't have this situation in college? I've taught college. I was at Touro.
In Manhattan?
A shame. Behavior is a shame. Come in class late. Come in class not prepared. I failed 3 of the students. This was a senior class. I was teaching fundamental philosophy of education. So it was an elective for her. She thinks she didn't have to do no work. I failed her. Yes, I did. Yes, sir, Reball. So, but these are the behavioral aberrations that you go through when you're in college. You're not supposed to have that. They're supposed to be responsible.
See, I wouldn't have expected to hear
now, a
that.
kid that's in 3rd grade, they're learning. They're in training. How can they be trained well as students if a teacher is ignoring them? You have to respond to these students. You have to respond. Either way, you have to respond. And you have to keep anecdotals. Is that right, Gloria? That's the first thing you're going to ask for, anecdotals, right?
What is an anecdotal? Sound like a good cookie. What is that?
It's evidence of behavior.
Evidence of, how do you spell that, Aunt Bev?
Because you ANDEC antidote EECTONAL anecdotal.
Never heard the word before. You know I love a good word.
It's like a diary. Okay. That's what it is.
Okay.
Like if you keep a journal, anecdotal every day that there's a behavioral infraction, you write it down. You say what happened. You say what occurred. You say what the predisposition was. You say what the outcome was, how you handled it.
They use the black and white books for those. Yes.
Yes. Say that again.
Those black and white books we usually get the kids, they use that every day. Right. The teacher writes down. Yes.
I have a question for all three. I have a question for all 3 of y'all. I'm going to call y'all name out and just answer yes or no. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lawsuit going on.
Mm-hmm.
Should, outside of the lawsuit, should charges be filed against the teachers that were present? Aunt Bev, yes or no?
Yes.
Des, yes or no?
Yes.
Miss Gloria, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Is it going to be right? Should all the teachers be fired behind this, or do they do like the police do, put them on desk duty and it give them an administrative leave? Should they be fired, or should they just be on administrative leave until all of this gets worked out? Me personally, I think they should all be fired. I want to start with Des. Des, what do you think?
I think they should all be fired. And the reason I guess I say that is, one, it's not up in the air, or the part of the investigation that's not unclear is whether or not they acted or whether or not they knew about it. So it would be different if it was like, if their story was, oh my goodness, right when we first heard about it or saw him, which was 10 minutes later, we moved and operated. That's not what they're saying. So if they're admitting and saying, well, we thought he was playing even after we're told, like it's nothing but negligence. And, so it's, I think they need, I think desk duty is for when, or should be reserved for when it's unclear and they're trying to, one person is saying, no, this is what happened and I'm not in the wrong. And then the other's saying, yeah, so they're trying to figure it out. But regardless, both parties are saying and admitting that, there was negligence, wrongdoing of, or not believing and not responding once it was brought to your attention. So definitely.
Tracy Cox, who said that she was an educator. She said that she was an educator at one point. I'm trying to see how far that I missed that. I can't see the rest of the text. I can't scroll up any further. But she said, and I want to hear all three of y'all with this. Des, starting off with you. Then we'll go to Miss Gloria and then Aunt Bev. She says, fired, but it's hard if there is tenure. Explain that. I want to see. Des, tell me what that means, and then when you finish, we'll go to Miss Gloria, and then after Miss Gloria, we'll go to Aunt Bev. So I'm going to read that again. She said they should be fired, but it's hard if there's tenure. Destiny, what do you think?
Like, tenure provides basically like extra support or protection, so to speak, like especially legally. And I mean, when I first started teaching, I would kind of hear people say different things like, oh, you can't do nothing with so-and-so because, they're tenured. It's almost like being part of the union, right? Like you have they're hardcore allies for you. Like they go hard. Like it doesn't matter what you kind of do, so to speak. You're tenured. So you're kind of like locked in, if that makes sense. So that's kind of, that's what she's referring to. But again, I feel like when it comes to something as extreme as a death of a child, I would hope and believe that tenure status would not matter.
Right. I'm like, there should be
would not
some
be there like that. But again, we know anything is possible here in this country, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Right, but because I'm sure there has to be some extremities where they say, okay, we understand you're at tenure or you have tenure, but no, this is unacceptable. Miss Gloria, what are your thoughts?
They'll probably still fight for them because that's what their role is.
So you think the school would still fight for them? You said that the school would still fight for them?
They would.
So, because that's what they're,
The union is going to fight for those tenure. People that have tenure can't do too much with them because the union is going to be behind them 100% all the way. Okay? Now, they should be fired, I believe, because they were warned. The kids came to them and told them what was going on, and they ignored them. So they should be liable for what happened. But because they have tenure, the union is going to be behind them 100%.
That's a hot mess.
Which is crazy because if they have tenure, they should have the most training and the most skill
Right.
set to know, so it's kind of like that. It's really ironic that if they are tenured, that they lacked that,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
So,
insane.
That's their ruling and their laws within the union. That's the union. That's another big thing. That's something. It's a lot.
That's insane. Bev, what are your thoughts about that? Bev, what are your thoughts? Should they be fired or can they be? What are your thoughts about this whole tenure piece and firing them?
I think tenure is political. I think that tenure, of course, like what was previously said, it's job security. Yes.
That's what it is.
Okay, but when you have a death, now you're starting to examine the contract. Okay, now you're starting to examine the contract, and these lawyers are no joke. Okay, you have a death. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about a death. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Who was the lead teacher during that death? So tenure or not, I know in the school I was at, she would have been fired. And she would have had to fight for her job. The union will fight for it, no doubt about it. The union will fight. And the teachers union, especially in New York, it's one of the best in the country.
Yes, it is.
But you cannot undo a death. And they probably would fire her, and she would have to fight for her job to get it back. That means if you get fired as a teacher, that's your pension.
Yes, it
You're
is.
not entitled to it because you violated your contract. How are you going to tell me that, what? You let that be a Caucasian mother, and that teacher is Black.
Oh, she's fired. Okay.
And what? Gloria,
She's
say it
fired.
again. Okay.
She's fired. Okay.
She's not going to no rubber room
No,
and
she's
sit
not.
every day and collect a paycheck.
Bev, and you know what? I'm going to tell you something.
Don't talk about the rubber room.
But you know what? Bev, you're right. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at one of the comments on here. My girlfriend Kelly, hey Kels, my girl Kelly says that tenure goes out the window when it comes to death or criminal activity.
See, that's what I'm saying.
And even with what you just said, I said last week when I shared the video, one of the things I said was, I wonder if he would have been on the ground that long if he didn't look the way he did.
Okay.
Or if the teacher didn't look the way she looked.
about.
If the teacher's white, if the teacher didn't look the way she, because I don't know the race of the teacher, or if race is a factor.
None of that has been disclosed, right?
So
right,
yeah.
But it really makes
Ms.
you
Thomas,
wonder.
Let's just think about it. Let's just think about the teaching field. What percentage of the teaching field is Caucasian? And what percentage of that teaching field is African American?
Right, which is why I feel that she's
okay.
white.
At least 70 to 75%. And you can fact check it. They're Caucasian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now there's no way a Caucasian mother in New York, her child died, and that Black teacher still punching that clock. It's no way.
Oh, absolutely right. No. We know that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Y'all, I can't believe it's almost 10 o'clock. Do you know Norm gave me extra 30 minutes? Thank you, Norm. Y'all have been, when I say that y'all have been absolutely incredible. I want to thank, y'all, everybody that's on Facebook, can we just put some hearts and love up for Bev, Destiny, and Miss Gloria? I mean, they have been absolutely incredible. They are part of the school district. These are people that have had experience with these kids, not even just with the kids, experience with these parents, not just with the parents, experience with other teachers, experience with the district, as was stated before. There's so many different levels of experience that came about tonight. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted people who are in the school. I didn't want anyone throwing out opinions. I wanted exactly what I got, facts. Because this is going to broaden our perspective on what we need to prepare our kids for in regard to communication. There needs to be parent-teacher communication. There needs to be better student-teacher relations to prevent these things from happening. And the system needs to change. The system needs to change.
That's what teacher reform is about. That's what teacher preparation reform is about. And if these Black parents don't, Gloria said a minute ago, parents don't realize their power.
They don't.
And she has spoken a mouthful of truth. A Caucasian parent will be at City Hall at 8:00 in the morning.
That's right.
If her child don't have a dictionary in the classroom.
Ooh.
That's the truth.
You know what? I'm not trying to be funny. We're going to have to do this. Norm, we might have to do an in-live session. Des, you do on the 22nd?
Of May.
I'm going to have to figure this out. Because I need to get, I would love for you all. Des, I'm going to give you time. Because you ain't going to go, you are not going to deliver the baby live on the air. And then blame me. But I definitely would love to get in a room so that we can have an open forum with how to educate the parents to connect with the school system. Because another thing, and I'm going to say this real quick and I have to go, something that Miss Gloria had said, parents don't even have the information, they don't know the information that they can use.
And that's called information discrimination. Okay?
See,
that's against the law.
See,
that's against the law for upper class district to get information, and a mile away where you have an inner city school and that parent doesn't get the same information. That's against the law.
I'm bad. Don't start. Yes. You're going to get me kicked out this station. Don't start. But you're right. We have to come back. I'm going to put something together and work on how to go ahead and and how to go ahead. And
I love your other two guests. The panel is
amazing?
Really, you know, our minds are firing because this is a critical time in this country.
Yes, it is.
This is a critical time. You talk about 200 years ago with slavery and we couldn't go to school. There was no integration.
Taught.
You're right. And today,
you're right.
There is integration, but you have a prestigious institution like Harvard, whose Black people in there only 5%. Where is the integration?
Right.
And then you have instances like this in an inner city where a 5-year-old dies because of negligence.
Ooh. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, we're going to have to continue this. I need you guys to make sure that you tune in next week. Next week, I got gospel rapper, block writer coming to the building. But we're going to continue this educational conversation. So I will keep you guys posted on where we're going to do a forum. I would like to do something real soon. Y'all can help me out. Desi, we're going to have to go ahead and zoom you in. No labor on the road and no labor here. Hallelujah. But thank you guys.
Best to you, Miss Thomas. God bless you. And
your ladies.
Yes, you guys have been amazing. God bless y'all. Lord willing, if God says the same, I will be back on next week. Same bat time, same bat channel at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night, guys.
Bye, Mom.
Love you out there.
Love you guys.
Love you too, Miss Gloria.